Good morning, everyone. We're going to get started. Give everyone another second or two to get signed up. But today, we're going to start a new series on specialized verticals. Before I go through the formal presentation, um, I've had some success, and a good part of my success has been focusing on certain areas. Whether I was an attorney, which is specific to me, but I've focused a lot on attorneys. I knew some people in the nursing home business, which is not an area people go after. I was able to do some other products that get you into certain industries that a lot of people don't go into. I made a concerted effort when I started to not just focus on restaurants and retail where most people are, where there's tremendous competition and lower margins. And I think we're going to start a series of three now where hopefully I can help point you guys in some different directions that focus on certain areas. And I'm going to give you some specifics that I've done, but it can be any area, but I'm going to give you the tools and the ideas to start to think about areas that you guys can focus on that maybe you're not based on different professions you've been in or people you know. And, again, I always encourage questions. So please ask questions, comments while I go through the presentation. So with that said, let's get started. So we all know that one of the benefits of the industry and EPSG in general is you can really sign up almost any merchant in any industry, and that's great because it rules out very few situations other than where maybe we're closed out because of some technology. But in general, we can do almost anything. And that's great, and we should always be all things to all people. But I think if at the same time you focus on certain specialties in certain industries, you're going to start to have better closing rates and maybe open yourself up to even a bigger pool of potential candidates and prospects. So, like we said, we're able to support almost any type of merchant, but we should also develop and focus on certain industry groups that we maybe have an advantage in, so you can call yourself a specialist. So, how do we identify certain industries? We identify industries where you may have a certain knowledge or interest in. Maybe it's an area that you used to work in. In my case, it was as an attorney, but you guys all have different backgrounds that you can start to think about, different types of people you know, and that's how you start to focus on certain industries. I think you should try to consider certain industries that are less competitive. Again, whether it's law firms, a lot of different types of B2B. Again, not just getting away from non-retail and restaurants. Whether it's convenience stores, whether it's whatever it is, because you can get into different niches. I was able to get into a bunch of smoke shops, and now I'm trying to get into different smoke shops because it's an area I got into, and we have a competitive advantage because of Verosa, which we'll talk about in this series as well. Where you may have a competitive advantage, again, in my situation as a lawyer, I think when I speak to law firms, I have an advantage because I was an attorney. You guys may have your own advantages. Certainly, you want to focus on industries that have consistent volume. I certainly think professionals, which isn't non-competitive, but again, I think even that area is a little less competitive than restaurants and retail, whether it's doctors, dentists, chiropractors, therapists, but they have consistent volume, so they're great businesses. Um, Areas that are less reliant on technology, or we may have a technological advantage. Again, law firms don't have a lot of technology needs. Nursing homes certainly don't. In my cases that I've had experience with, where you can use NCR or Point, which I haven't done a ton of, but a little bit. Verosa, which I'll talk more about in the next part of the series. We have a real competitive advantage in Verosa. We can go after QuickBooks, which a lot of people can't. So those are just some examples. Benefits of being a specialist or having a specialty. Second, when you're viewed as an expert by merchants and your peers, they look at you in a different light. You're not just another guy trying to get a processing account, but you have a real niche and specialty. It definitely helps you with your closing rate. It gives you much more focus and efficiency again, versus just trying to wake up each day and figure out how you're going to get your next merchant. It gives you a faster growth rate and higher margins in your portfolio, so you have a stickier, more profitable, bigger portfolio. I'm going to give you a few examples, which we're then going to talk about in greater detail in the next two parts of the series. So law industry. Firms are relatively new to the benefits of card payments. The law industry, years and years ago, other than maybe matrimonial for divorce, most law firms never took cards, and some still don't. But they're starting to take it more and more, and there's a big opportunity there because not a lot of processors and salespeople going after it. Much less competition, like we just said. There's consistent volume, which we always love. It's a lot easier to add value because you're going to a lot of firms that don't know a lot about this versus restaurants and retail. You're talking to a lot of firms that either are bringing it in for the first time, so you're looking and adding a lot of value and talking about a lot of things they don't know anything about, which always gives us a competitive advantage. Or ones that have it set up probably weren't taken care of so well. So the ones I've dealt with, the pricing was very non-competitive, and they didn't talk to them about anything other than giving them a terminal, which in a lot of cases is not the right way to go. Very low technology reliance. In some cases, a terminal makes sense, but a lot of times USAA Pay is the right way to go. And now, even with invoicing, I'll talk about in the next meeting how we can really get involved in showing a real value from a technological perspective. Um, Office managers are many times the gatekeepers, which I think is a good thing. You don't have to deal with the lawyers as much. And if you develop relationships with these office managers, they're the ones making the decisions, and they're the type of people that are very easy to deal with and very easy, if you show real value and professionalism, to get them to do business with you. Lastly, I'm very excited. It's a little premature, but I'm developing a vertical here that's going to probably be called EPSG Esquire, which means lawyer. So we can go to law firms and show that we actually specialize in this area. We'll have a separate web page that they can see that we're really focused on this. There's one firm called LawPay out there that's really cornered the market throughout the country, and we're going to try to mimic kind of what they've done. And when you go to them, you can say, we have a guy who's a lawyer who's overseeing this part of our business, meaning me. I'll be happy to help you talk to them when needed and help you develop a sales plan and use this vertical to really go after law firms. So there'll be a lot more of that to talk about in the next part of the series and in the future. This area you guys probably know a little more about than law firms, but again, same thing with healthcare. I don't know if we'll build out a separate vertical, which we may once we're done with Esquire, but doctors, dentists, physical therapists, chiropractors, again, less competition in general. They do consistent volume. Again, very low technology, usually terminals, and if not, again, USAA Pay has everything they would need. Again, office managers usually are the gatekeepers. And again, we're hoping once we get done with Esquire to have a vertical here that you can go to these people and say we specialize in this, because from a sales perspective, I think these type of professionals and office managers love to hear that we specialize in their area. Again, these areas in the next series, I'm going to go into much more detail, but for today, QuickBooks, which is owned by Quicken, which has their own processing. And in a lot of ways, we were shut out. But through Verosa, which is a plugin, they do a really, really good job. We have a great relationship with them. I did, again, a 17-store location with them, and they were very happy, and they did a great job getting them set up. There's only a certain amount of plugins that allow processors like us to integrate with QuickBooks. Verosa is one of them. They do a great job. They're an expert in this type of integration. They're one of the few that now gives an EMV solution, which is amazing. There's a lot less competition in this area in general. Quicken was very high on pricing, and their competitors are as well, so we can do a great job there. We can definitely do a better job on pricing. And then the service from Verosa and you, with EPSG behind you, it's amazing the better service you can provide. The example I'm going to give you is the 17 location place I did. They're doing literally 50,000 transactions a month. They're with a processor that has a plug-in, never returned their calls, never gave them service, charged them a lot. We came in there with Verosa. We lowered the pricing, still made it a very profitable situation. We held their hand. We did everything right. And we provide much better service because I'm always accessible to them, just like you will. And it was an easy win. Not an easy integration. It took a lot of work, but we did a great job. And Verosa did a great job. And I'm going to talk to you more about that in the next part of the series. But to you guys who haven't used Verosa and have walked away from QuickBooks situations, you shouldn't be. And we have a winner there to deal with. As always, questions should go to the ProDV email. I'm going to just get quiet for a minute and see if anyone has any other further questions. All right, guys, I don't see any. I got one question here. Any update on Verosa integration with QuickBooks Online? Brent, I haven't dealt with that specific. For now, I only know it's POS and retail, but I will try to get an answer for you. So the next two parts we're going to roll out when we do the next presentation. I'm going to get into much more detail on law and healthcare and talk a little more on Verosa, so you guys know all the nitty gritty of what you need on all three verticals to go after them. I'd ask you guys for the next one. I want to get some feedback on verticals you guys have focused on in the past with success, ones maybe you haven't that need more help with, and think about areas maybe you should be going after, because I think, again, you guys will see a lot of success there. Kevin mentions a deal he's doing that allowed him to integrate with Sage accounting software. I'm not familiar with that at all. That's great. So again, I've walked away from things that I thought we couldn't do. So when you come across situations that you haven't seen before, make sure you speak to the team and see if it's something we can do when you talk to Jeff and Brett and the rest of the group. And you can always get me involved as well, because there's not that many things we can't do, and there's a lot of things we do really, really well. But for the rest of today, for another minute or two, and then next time, I'd love to hear more about verticals and specialties that you guys are in, so we can all learn from it together, as well as think about areas you should be going after that you haven't, based on your past professions, based on personal and professional relationships you have. Because the more niches you can get involved in, you can make a whole career on it. Again, I'm trying to make it out of law firms. I have this huge nursing home relationship. It's a very closed industry, so I'm trying to get him to get me into other owners. You can open 50, 100 accounts at a time that way. And I'm always thinking of ways to do that. Again, through the Verosa account I have, I'm trying to see if he can get me into other people in the smoke shops, which I never even would have thought of I could get involved in. It's really unlimited, but the more niches you get, the more focused you get, versus every day just trying to hustle, which is great too. But the more focused you can be, the more success you have and the more productivity you have. So with that said, today wasn't meant to be a long one. I'm going to get into much more detail for the next one, but I'd love if you guys could email me or on the next call, come up with some of the niches and industries you guys are in so everyone can learn from them, or come up with ones you think you should be in so we can talk about them on the next call. So with that said, have a great day, and you can always email us with questions in the meantime, and I'd love some more feedback at the next one. So thanks for joining, guys.